'Cause we're gonna be
This is where we hold them. This is where we fight. This is where they die. Puppeteer, where's your professor?
Hello everyone, this is Spartan from Spartan Games, and we're doing another one of our reviews right now. We're doing our roundtable. It's not very round-tabley right now. Last time we had my sister Bailey was going to be in it, and unfortunately the other guys that are going to be part of the group, you guys met Will in the Spartan Reacts, not the Spartan Reacts, in the Spartan Race video, and then we had a couple other people, but we had some conflicting things. But for the Avengers Endgame, we're going to have our full group out for the review. But anyway, we're going to be talking about Shazam. I went and saw Shazam last night, and I'm doing the non-spoiler bit now. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Best of the DC movies so far. Slightly better than Aquaman. It beat out Aquaman just a little bit, just because of the meta jokes they made. But Aquaman was still amazing. But way better than Man of Steel, BVS, and Justice League. It was absolutely fantastic. Zachary Levi did an amazing job. All the actors were amazing. Mark Strong pulled off villain very, very well. I'm trying to think of all the things that I want to say that aren't spoilery. The CG worked out very well. That was a thing that I commented on about Aquaman. Like, the CG looked good, but they had moments where it was still kind of just like, oh, yeah, that's a CG thing. There were no moments in this where my suspension of disbelief was shattered by the CG, as opposed to Justice League with Steppenwolf. The CG versions of the villains were very, very convincing. I thought they looked very nice. There was a lot... I do want to say there was a lot of product placement, which I did not like. Well, because there was very blatant non-product placement, which stands out to me. But then there was very blatant product placement. So, for example, the beer they had in the shelf, it said bar beer, something like that. Bar's best, and that was the beer, a very non-real beer. But then you have, like, in the back, and you had that, and there was also a car, like a Dodge truck. Then in front of it, instead of saying Dodge, it said Dodd, D-O-D-D. And I was looking at it, I was like, it's really, really weird. But then also in the background, you'd see very, very frequently, you'd see like M&Ms or other things that actually exist. And it's like, oh, that stands out. So that was kind of odd. I felt that there was some very blatant product placement and then some very blatant anti-product placement. What else? One thing I loved, and I feel like it's product placement. This is just my kind of like headcanon. The scene that was in the trailer where he's like lightning the phones is like, your phone's charged, and then the one phone blows up. I think, I'm not sure, but I like to think that was a reference to the exploding iPhones, and that because none of the other phones exploded except for the one. I like to think that one was the iPhone, because I mean, I'm an Android guy myself. So I like to think that was a reference to that. I liked the setting in Philly. I really enjoy that when we have the setting in a place you wouldn't, because you don't typically see Philly as a setting. They made a couple Rocky references, which I was like, yay! They sat down right in front of his statue up on the stairs, which I really, really loved. There was a lot of references to a lot of different things. There was a huge reference to the Mist, for anyone who's familiar with the movie The Mist, based on the Stephen King book. There was a reference that there was a door that got open, and then the tentacle from the Mist came out and was like, ah! So I saw that, and I was like, cool. So yeah, that kind of thing going on. We already talked about Philly. All right, that's it for my non-spoiler. Again, I really like the movie. I thought Zachary Levi was strong. Actually, no, I have a couple other non-spoiler things to talk about. The music, they made some really good music choices, in my opinion. For a lot of moments, they played some very classic songs. One that stood out to me was they played "Don't Stop Me Now" by Queen. And I was just like, yeah, which I love because I love Queen and I love everything they do with that. But I will say that the normal score, just like the superhero composed score, the amazing that kind. I mean, it was good. Don't get me wrong, but it didn't stand out to me. Like it's not sticking with me the same way that Christian Bale's Batman theme does, or Captain America theme, or anything like that. It didn't stick with me. It was kind of just like, oh, okay, superhero theme, woohoo. But yeah, so that's gonna be it for my non-spoiler section. We're gonna go ahead. We're gonna get into spoilers right now. So 3, 2, 1, spoilers! All right. So first thing I want to talk about spoiler-wise is I liked how they started the movie. They started the movie off with a intro with Thaddeus Savannah, with the villain, as a kid going and trying to get the power of being selected to get the power of Shazam, but he didn't get it. So I was like, oh. And then it ended with his car accident, and then really set him on his path. I thought it was very, very good. It introduced us to the 7 deadly sins, who were the main antagonists of the film. I mean, Savannah was the antagonist. They were the ones behind him, pushing him to the villainous side. And I already referenced it. The CGI on the 7 deadly sins, once they broke free of their restraints, it looked good. It didn't break my suspension of disbelief. I mean, yeah, they're CGI villains. They're gonna look a tiny bit weird, but I mean, I thought they looked pretty good. They looked good. The 7 deadly sins in and of themselves, they looked really good. There was only one of them that was really obvious for me to be like, oh, okay, that one's that one, and that one was gluttony. The other ones I couldn't really tell. I was like, which one's which? So that's my only thing on the 7 deadly sins. I would have maybe tried to make them a little more obvious. And then we had, because in that scene we also got introduced to the eye. I don't remember if they name dropped what the eye was. I don't remember. If there is a name drop for what the eye specifically is, please let me know. I don't know what it is. I'm sorry. I didn't grow up reading the Shazam comics. I just did a lot of research, hit it before I went in and saw the movie, so I'd maybe try to pick up on some of the more obscure references, but I didn't get everything. So we had the 7 chairs for the 7 wizards that protect the 7 realms from the 7 deadly sins, and they all live inside the Rock of Eternity. That was the thing I didn't realize. I didn't realize the Rock of Eternity was like a place. I thought it was literally like there was like a pedestal somewhere inside their lair that had a rock on it. That was what I thought, but I guess not. I don't know if that eye is anything specific, whether or not it's actually something in the comics, though, that's related to the 7 deadly sins, and I just missed it. I can cross that off. I don't need to talk about that. That was just a movie thing. All right. Then as soon as we were done with that, we jumped to Billy. And we saw his regular self, and then we saw a great flashback moment of when we went back and saw his mother losing him at the fair and then never being found, and the start of his story of being found, of bouncing from foster home to foster home to foster home, and his search for his mother. And I'm going to talk about this now, so I don't have to come back and talk about it later. I thought this was cool, because we go back and we revisit that scene later when Billy finds his mom, and she essentially tells him, "I don't want you," and he goes back to the group home. But I liked that we had the 2 scenes, and this felt. I know this isn't a uniquely Star Wars thing, but it was similar in the way they did the story of Luke and Kylo Ren in The Last Jedi, where we see the same flashback, but in multiple perspectives. So we saw the flashback from his perspective, and everyone was happy, his mom was happy, so on, so on, so on. But then, when we go back and we see it from the mom's perspective, you can see how hard being a mom was for her. And I'm not justifying leaving her son there. I'm not justifying that at all. But I mean, it's apparent the struggle, which I thought was a cool little dichotomy. Like you see the past through the eyes of this child and how they perceived it, and then you see it for the reality that it was, which was really, really cool. The school they were going to was Fawcett Central. I don't know if that's anything specific from the comics, or if that's a real school. I don't know. I don't think so. So it looks like it's a school in a town named Fawcett somewhere in the DC universe. But that was where they were going to school. So that was I wrote that down because I wasn't sure if that was going to be something important, but not really. I don't know what the significance of it is. I know there is some because I've heard about it, but they had a lot of symbolism with tigers. I don't know what, and I did just see. So the tigers was the Fawcett School mascot, but I'm pretty sure there's more to that. There's a lot of references to tigers. For example, Billy wanted the tiger in the flashback. And he had a tiger on his backpack, and then there was there was just a lot of moments where you could look in the background and you'd see like stuffed animal tigers or other things like that. So, and I know there's a reference and there's significance of tigers in the comics. I just do not know what they are. But also something that I want to talk about this. I'm going to talk about this now because the final thing I want to talk about is something I think about is what I think is going to be coming after. So we had all the failings of Billy being a superhero and Freddy trying to teach him what that means and failing. And he eventually, and I'll just boil down to eventually it was all on Billy and he figured it out what being a hero was, and it wasn't about him being a hero, it was about him being a hero with his family and the strength of the family. Because mega spoiler alert right here. In the movie, we get the full-on Shazam family. It's not just Billy as Shazam. We get the full Shazam family: Pedro, Freddy, Eugene, Darla, Mary. They all get their powers, and so we have all 6 of them battling the 7 deadly sins, and it's amazing. It is amazing. I remember I was in the theater. My friend Danny was over here. Jillian was over here. We're just watching it, and then I'm like, oh, they're doing it! I was freaking out. I think I literally looked at Dan. I was like, the mad bastards did it! They did it! I was so excited. It was amazing. But so that's the kind of factor that was kind of something I didn't expect them to go full Shazam family this film. I knew they would find out. I knew at least the rest of the kids were going to find out. But I didn't expect them to get their powers this one. I figured that would have been the sequel. But so that happened in this one. I felt like the characters of all the other foster kids worked very, very well. The actor who played Freddy did a very, very good job. The only one of the... so Darla, Mary, and Freddy were our 3 main forays into the rest of the Shazam family, and then Pedro and Eugene were kind of the back. We got some character development there, but for the most part, they were kind of background. But it all worked out again very, very well. Eugene had some really fun moments once he got his powers and he started throwing the lightning around. He blasted one of the 7 deadly sins and he went, Hadouken! And I was like, yeah! I was like, I understood that reference. I love anytime I watch things and I can be like, I understood that reference. I can Captain America it up. But yeah, so the family never broke my suspension of disbelief that it was a real foster family as well. It felt like a real kind of group home, a place where these kind of people actually would have been. And the Victor and oh gosh, what was the foster's mom's name? I want to say Tanya. I don't remember. I'm sorry. I don't remember. But they felt very, very real. They felt like real characters. That's something that they've been getting better at doing. They're getting a lot better at making real characters in the DC universe. They did it very well in Aquaman, I felt like. The non-powered characters and the non can feel very real. For example, Aquaman's dad felt like a very real character to me. I empathized with him a lot. Sorry, I had to hydrate. But yeah, it was all in all. The entire Shazam family was amazing. And then when they got their powers, I lost my freaking mind. Because again, I didn't expect that. I couldn't remember this. Again, I found this out in my research. I thought there was, because when they were naming off the kids, I was counting, because I was like, all right, we're supposed to have 6 kids, because we're supposed to have all 7 chairs filled. So I was counting it off, and I was like, wait a minute. Are we missing a kid? So I found out that currently, this is my understanding, currently in the comics, we do not have the 7th member of the Shazam family. And I believe it's DC Rebirth right now is where they're at. But there's a supposed 7th member of the Shazam family who's actually like the king of Magic Land or Funland, which is one of the 7 realms of magic. So, or is it Magic Realm? I don't know. I thought it was land. It might be realm. It might be called Magic Realm or Fun Realm or something like that. One of those two, like the king of that place, is supposedly the 7th member of the Shazam family, but hasn't been confirmed or denied in the comics yet. If I'm wrong on that, please feel free to correct me on that. Again, I haven't been reading the Shazam comics, but from what I have seen from the comics, all of the costumes for the Shazam family and the way they made the characters look, the rest of the Shazam family, looked really comic book accurate. So like Mary, Darla, Freddy, their comic book costumes looked pretty close to accurate from what I understand. And I was like, woohoo, yes! I was very proud of that. Talk about the Shazam fam. I'm going to talk about one other thing, which has some implications, I feel like. The very, very end of the film, Freddy and the rest of the Shazam family are sitting down. Because it was a thing earlier in the film where Freddy bragged to some bullies that he was friends with Shazam. And that he would come and have lunch with them to prove it. And then Billy didn't show up. And he got beat up. He got a suitcase wedgie. But they were all sitting down, and Shazam came, and as Shazam came and had lunch with Freddy and was talking them up to the rest of the two. And then we see in the background, walking in, he's like, oh, and I brought another one of my friends. And then Superman walks in. We never see his face, so I don't think it was Henry Cavill. You just see the suit walking in holding the tray. He's standing next to Freddy in the big S. But so that has a lot of implications. That's the very end of the film. And so if Shazam is able to go talk to Superman and say, hey, come have lunch with me and this kid, we know he's already met Superman then, but we didn't see that in this film. So I'm wondering what the story is there. Because also, again, to my knowledge, the rest of the Shazam family was never on the Justice League. I'm not aware if they were. If they are, again, please correct me. But, so I'm wondering where it is he ended up going to meeting Superman. Or what the timeline is for this in relation to Justice League. Or where it's at, whether or not it's before or... I mean, we know it's after Justice League, but where is it in relation to, like, Aquaman or any of this other stuff? I have a feeling it's also after Aquaman because they made a lot of references. Because one of the end credit scenes, the end credit scene was Freddy trying to see if Billy could talk to fish. And then, like, why would I want to talk to fish? That's so stupid. He's like, and he's wearing an Aquaman shirt. He's like, I don't know, maybe so you could summon an army of fish to fight for you. He's like, good point. That's pretty cool. And that kind of reference. They made a lot of tongue-in-cheek references like that, like a lot of meta commentary. Parts of the film, though, did feel like they were trying to hawk some toys. For example, there's a scene where when Billy's fighting Dr. Savannah for the first time, he goes through a toy store and he's just throwing toys at him. They had that in the trailer. But then, if you all of those things are things you can actually buy. So it's kind of just like, oh, couldn't do some other form of product placement, could ya? Yeah, it goes back to the whole problem of product placement in films, in my opinion, anyway, which is a whole issue. What was I gonna say? I had a thought, and now it's gone. I talked about Superman. Referenced Batman a lot. The Batarang was actually very useful. So Freddy had a replica Batarang, which they used, and they actually used to stab Dr. Savannah at some point. So it was very like, yeah, cool. Very cool moment. All right, I'm going to talk about the final two things I wanted to discuss. So the first thing I want to talk about is the caterpillar, which we saw very, very early on in the film in Dr. Savannah's intro in a little glass container in the Rock of Eternity. It was just sitting there, and I was like, oh, okay, it's caterpillar. I don't know what's going on here. And then later on, when Billy showed up, that glass container was broken because Dr. Savannah had come in and he'd released the 7 deadly sins. And it had been this huge, giant fight. The container got broken and the caterpillar had gotten out. And so what I have seen, following that, because I took a note of that, I said, caterpillar? Question mark? And a mid-credit scene was Dr. Savannah going crazy inside his cell, writing the symbols on the wall, just like, as if he's trying to get back to the Rock of Eternity. My friend Danny looked at me and was like, how come this? No, it wasn't my friend Danny. Someone behind us was like, how come the symbols aren't working? And my opinion was that, sure, the symbols might work when he writes them on the door in order to get to the Rock of Eternity, but he can't open the door because it's his prison cell. So it's not going to work that way. But that caterpillar starts talking to him. It's on the windowsill and starts talking to him. And when I first heard the voice, because he was in the cell writing out, my initial thought was they were going to do an Injustice League tee-up thing again, where like someone was going to open the door and like Lex Luthor was going to walk in or something like that. I was going to be like, he's going to be like, Dr. Savannah, I'd like to talk to you. That kind of thing. I thought that was what they were going to do. But instead, they had this caterpillar on the windowsill talking to him, and I'm just like, what the heck is going on? He's like, we will rule all 7 realms. They will bow to us. Or bow to me. I forget exactly what it was he said. But I was just like, what is going on? And so I had to Google this. That caterpillar is apparently with the exception of Black Adam, is the biggest Shazam villain, called Mr. Mind. And I'm just like, huh, interesting. I really didn't get a whole lot of his powers, but so apparently that's for a lot of fans who have read the Shazam comics for a long, long time, that is a huge, like, hey, this is what we're going to be doing next time. And I was like, interesting, because I did not see that coming at all. So part of what and then this is going to lead to my final topic of discussion, what I want to talk about with Black Adam. We had a Black Adam cameo because we had a fantastic moment of exposition. And for the life of me right now, I cannot remember whether or not the exposition was given to Billy or whether or not the exposition was given to Dr. Savannah. I think it was given to Billy. But anyway, what it was is we had the great wizard Shazam talking to Billy, and then he conjures up some great hologram. It's like, we had a champion in the old days. And then this being in the Shazam kind of costume with the hood, casting lightning, I think. And if you look under the hood, the likeness was remarkably similar to that of an old wrestler. A now famous actor named Dwayne Johnson, also known as The Rock, who, interestingly, is still under contract to play Black Adam whenever that happens. Please let that happen. I really want that to happen. And then they said that he released the 7 Deadly Sins the first time, and then that got the other 6 wizards killed. And so so the wizard Shazam was the only one left with his power. So it kind of teed up something with Black Adam, like, oh, are we going to see that version of Black Adam, like that story, where his journey from being the champion of magic to the one who releases the 7 Deadly Sins, or will we see something more modern? Because I have seen lately a lot of attempts, especially in I don't want to say especially in video games, because we won't have really one video game, but because the big rumor is that Black Adam is going to be portrayed more as an anti-hero, someone who can come in and maybe help him out every once in a while. Because I've seen other attempts to do that, mainly in Injustice. Because in Injustice 2, Black Adam's always been a villain, but he kind of came into the game and was our substitute for Shazam, because Shazam was dead by this point. And he had a lot of, I'll call them good guy moments during the Brainiac invasion during Injustice 2, which is very, very interesting. So I'll be very intrigued to see if they do that. I'm going to be very intrigued to see whether or not they're even going to do that Black Adam movie. Because I've discussed with my sister before, I've discussed with other people, part of what I think is going to be going on with the Wonder Woman movie. I think they might try to throw in, and instead of doing it with the Flash, they might make that our version of Flashpoint and reset the universe. Because we have Ben Affleck leaving, we have Henry Cavill who wants to leave, supposedly. And so Wonder Woman, especially since it's being placed in the 80s, and we have Steve Trevor back, that's showing, like, we've seen him on set in the 80s. So part of what I've discussed with my sister is that maybe Wonder Woman finds some way to go back in time and save Steve from that plane crash. And what that does messes up everything, and they're in the 80s, and they realize everything got messed up. And so what they have to do is she has to go back and let him die. But then, as we learn with Flashpoint and the Flash, you can try to fix it, but no matter what you do, it's never going to be exactly the same. So that's how they'll maybe reset some stuff in the universe that they want to fix. But again, we're not going to know until that movie comes out. But again, so this movie, I absolutely loved it. If you guys liked this movie and you guys liked my review, go ahead and leave a like and a comment down below. What I'm going to give this film is, as I said, this is my highest DC film. It narrowly beat out Aquaman as my favorite of the new DC movies. So based on all the stuff, based on how the filmography was, the soundtrack, and then just overall connection to the comics and all this stuff, I'm going to give this a nice whopping 8 out of 10. There's a full-on 8 out of 10. Boom! And that is going to be it for this video. Again, if you guys like this one, please leave a like and comment down below. Also, hit that subscribe button so you can see more reviews when I post stuff. You're going to be seeing my review for Avengers Endgame right when it comes out, because I already have my tickets already bought. Opening night, it's going to be good. I'm going to see all of you guys in the next video. Stay Spartan strong. Aroo! Aroo! Aroo!